Good morning, everyone. If I may have your attention for some house rules. So kindly, if your mic is not on silent mode, we would request that you do that because we'll be streaming online. Not mic, sorry, phone. Just that I'm on a mic, you know. Then Victoria will demonstrate at some point for the panelists once you sit in.
The Women in Manufacturing program was set up in May 2017 in order to increase women participation in the manufacturing sector. We are looking at launching the first ever report done on women in manufacturing in Kenya. I think this is a great milestone for the manufacturing sector in Kenya because data is the point through which you're able to evaluate and make decisions. This report will therefore be able to guide some of the policy decisions towards supporting the manufacturing sector and the women participation within this sector. So this study is going to be important for decision makers, policy makers, the women in manufacturing themselves to be able to understand the dynamics within the sector. So the data here is something that we're very proud to be associated with, considering that it's the first time a study like this is being carried out in Africa. As the Chief Executive Officer of Kenya Association of Manufacturers and someone who founded also the Women in Manufacturing program in May 2017, I feel extremely proud to be associated with this report. When you have a sector that is very heavily male-dominated, the ability to create a platform that can really bring in the other 50% of the population to actively participate in that sector, for me, I think is transformative and something that is going to leave a legacy for the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Beyond the study, we intend to implement the findings of the study so that we really get the most and have a big impact in terms of transforming the society and really giving those opportunities, creating jobs for women. So it's for me very profound and transformative. I'd like to welcome women in manufacturing, women entrepreneurs who are in the value-add industries, in agro-processing, to come and join the Women in Manufacturing program at Kenya Association of Manufacturers. We now have a report with clear data that is going to enable us to have very tailor-made solutions to influence policy and enable you to create market linkages and grow your businesses. Come on board. We look forward to having you.
Good morning, and welcome to this launch of the Women in Manufacturing Report. My name is Victoria Rubadiri. I'll be your moderator for this session. We're coming to you live from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers headquarters. And for those of you who are streaming on YouTube and Facebook, welcome, welcome. It's a very unique and different kind of event. We've had to scale things down a bit, but the beauty is that even if we're going through a pandemic, we can have you join us through the power of technology. This is a very important day, and it's quite exciting when you think about it. This is the first report of its kind, not just in Kenya, not just in the East African region, but in Africa. We get a sense and a look into the numbers, the data of the case for women in manufacturing. And so we'll be hearing data and statistics that are really important to give you a look and a picture into this industry. Now we have hashtags running as well that we want you to share. Hashtag WIMKE, as well as hashtag WIM report. So if you're on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, share what you hear throughout the speeches and the talks today. And of course, I'd like to invite our first speaker for this session, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers CEO, Phyllis Wakiaga. She also happens to be one of the co-founders of the Women in Manufacturing program right here at CAM. A round of applause for her as she makes her way up and sets the stage of what we can expect today.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Please namaste the person next to you. Normally I will tell you to handshake. But COVID has gotten us here where we do not handshake anymore. But yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this morning for the launch of the first ever Women in Manufacturing report. Allow me to recognize the presence of our chairman, Mr. Muchai Kunyiha, the chair and patron of the Women in Manufacturing program, Flora Mutai, who's also the chair of the Anti-Counterfeit Agency, our other board member, Marion, who's present, Mary Ngechu, also one of our very active members, our partner, Dr. Mujeni from ICRW, the media and everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here this morning for a very exciting event. This is the first ever Women in Manufacturing report launched in Africa. So we are doing something that I think is really going to be a game changer. The reason we wanted to carry out a study on women in manufacturing is to be able to inform our policy advocacy around this space. When we started the Women in Manufacturing program, it's obvious, of course, that women's participation is less within the manufacturing sector, but we wanted to have actual data and facts to inform policy and decisions and conversations around this topic. So we are very happy today and very excited that we'll be launching this first ever report. I don't want to get into the details at this point, but the report is revealing a lot of important information that will be utilized to grow the women participation within the manufacturing sector. So thank you very much. Feel very welcome as we go through the launch today. And we look forward to having your engagement on Facebook, Twitter, and all the social media channels. Please tell us your thoughts, what you think about the report, what you think about the manufacturing sector, and how we can continue to grow the women participation and involvement in this sector. So thank you very much. We look forward to a very exciting morning. Asante.
Thank you so much, Phyllis, and indeed, very, very exciting. Our next speaker is Flora Mutai, and just keeping in that spirit of first, she is the first ever chair and co-chair of the CAM Association. I'd like to invite her. Of course, she's also one of the co-founders of the Women in Manufacturing program, and she'll be giving us a bit more on what inspired this program and to build the capacities of women. Flora.
Is it on? Yes. Well, I can take that off. So, good morning, Chairman of CAM, Muchai Kunyiha, CAM Director, Marion Mwangi, Phyllis, the CEO, Mary Ngechu, ICW, Cleopatra Mungenyi, CAM members of the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen, again, good morning. So we're excited, like you've heard from Phyllis, to have you here today as we are actually launching the first ever report for women in manufacturing. You know what they say, that if you don't have a foundation, if you don't know where you're coming from, you can go anywhere. And anywhere is a direction. And I guess that's how we've been going. So we want to be a little bit more deliberate, a little bit more, to actually also start edging our way, like the 30% you see we got. I guess that came from some statistics somewhere. So it's important for what we are doing here today. So as an association, we understand that the involvement of women is a smart addition to leveraging the disruption brought about by Industry 4.0 to spur innovation and heighten creativity. And indeed, as I stand here myself today as a physical manifestation of how far women have come, how strong, resilient, and industrial that we can be, my joy and pride is eclipsed in the pain, anger that we feel, that we have all felt, at the thought of many challenges that still face women in the workplace, and especially in manufacturing. Women face unique structural, cultural, and historical challenges that hinder them from entering the sector and scaling their businesses. Some are stuck in the informal economy, and they are unable to formalize for sustainability. If you really think about it, we all know women, and a lot, by the way, who manufacture something. In fact, if I ask you to think about women who do some business, most likely it is manufacturing. They're making crisps, they're doing crochet, they're cooking something, all that is manufacturing, and they just don't realize that this is something that is scalable, this is an industry. Some do realize, I'm not saying they don't, we're not daft, but I think it's really around, have they ever thought, if I was going to get into something, this could be it, I'm good at it, and I can scale it up. So, as the WIM program, we wanted to provide practical solutions and gain tangible results. And this is what informed actually the need to do the study. The program, the WIM program, aims to grow, challenge, and mentor women in industries to scale up and to enhance the ability of women to take up leadership positions and significant roles in the sector. You know, we've had things in some of you who follow the program, we've had meetings with people like Marion, who is up there in manufacturing with smaller SMEs who now start seeing, hey, I can do this. We've had walkabouts in factories. In fact, I think yours was one of them. We've had mentorships. I personally also have a Melvin's mentorship program that really hinges on this. In fact, the women come to me and I say, I will talk to you. I talk to them for 8 weeks, telling them everything about what I know, finance, marketing, and especially explaining that we also began as SMEs. And then we funnel them, to CAM, to get the more formalization, because sometimes it's about we don't believe in ourselves or we don't see that somebody up there started down there. So it targets women entrepreneurs, providing them, like I say, with networks, skills, and knowledge to access markets, expand their current businesses, venture into diverse sectors, to further look at bridging the gap that makes it difficult for our country to realize its industrialization vision and economic goals. By equipping, educating, mentoring, and organizing these women into networks with influences, the program continues to build the capabilities of women industrialists and nurture their talents. Sometimes they call with a very, very simple question, like, where can I source this? And to you, Mary does plastics, you're like, hey, go there. To you it is such a small thing, but to them it's such a big thing. So really, we want to make this a hub where we really, really grow. The lack of capital finance, appropriate business development services, and the absence of specialized professional and technical human resources are also some of the foundational challenges that slows down the growth of women in manufacturing, hampering their participation. The financial sector itself also has limitations in creating tailored and innovative financial products for funding women startups in non-traditional manufacturing. If I could tell you a secret, and it's something I've said openly, when I started manufacturing, the problem with manufacturing is not like trading. When I want to go into trading, I buy this dress and I sell it here. So I have to just get the capital to buy the dress. But when you go into manufacturing, you have to get the capital to buy the machinery. So I keep sharing with my young ladies, I tell them, what I did is I didn't have the money. So I had a little bit of seed capital. So I just divided it, and I took a little bit into manufacturing, and I went to the industrial area and I ordered my machinery. And luckily for me at that time, I just wrote post-dated checks. So I came and when I was picking the machine, I wrote 5 checks to that guy, 3 checks to that guy, and 6 checks to somebody else, depending on if you gave me space. What I hadn't told them is there was no money in the bank. That was another story for another day. So they'd come and say, your check has bounced. I'm like, I'm coming right back. I'll call you on Tuesday. And that is the game I played until I was able to finance my business. You can't play that game today. It's a criminal offense. At the time, I think it was 300 bob. It really didn't matter to me. So it's also a place where we also try to talk to the banks and tell them the difficulties women face. Because what were they asking us for? Collateral. I was 20, how old? I had no collateral to my name. I didn't even have savings. Not even, I had no savings when I started my business. I mean, I was very blonde. And this is what I always tell people, please plan something. But despite that, it can be done. If you wake up, what happened to me is I woke up and I decided I don't want to be employed. I want to get into manufacturing. I had no plan for it. But now what we try to do is actually help the women really come up with something, because it can be done. Even today, by the way, I believe it can be done. So we recognize that business development service inefficiency are contributory to appropriate mechanisms for assisting women in adopting appropriate technology and innovation, which is necessary for enhancing productivity and production. Actually, today I'm telling the young women that there is no better time. It is a pandemic that has brought about this, but all of a sudden we are starting to respect buying online. I don't have to buy shelf space. I don't have to see a boss. I can get the product in front of you for you to buy now better than ever. Secondly, people are now starting to give space and room to new and different, because we are all in such a new and different space. So there's no better time than this. So the report that we are launching today seeks to inform the advocacy strategy to mainstream gender equality and inclusion in the manufacturing sector. As you know what they say, what doesn't get measured really doesn't get done. And we believe that this in-depth research will bring viable solutions to the challenge facing women in manufacturing, and that it shall inspire more women to venture into this uncharted territory. The hallmark of this study, conducted by the ICRW in collaboration with CAM, will be the government responding to the issues raised, or will help government respond to issues raised, and developing gender-sensitive policies that enhance industrial growth and development. We also hope that this study will inspire and encourage more gender-specific studies across other business sectors in the economy. As I conclude, this study was actually done during this unprecedented time. And the pandemic has really, as much as I'm saying has offered an opportunity, has actually added to the challenges that women face in this sector. However, opportunities to reinforce and reposition women's roles will actually come out. And we acknowledge the role of women and their commitment and initiatives to keep Kenya moving forward. During this period, women have been involved in manufacturing personal protective equipment, as well as sanitary and cleaning products, to ensure a continued supply of essential items. And really would like to thank the government for that bold step they took to actually support Kenya, buy Kenya, build Kenya. I've met a lot of them, and they're very proud of what they do, and for us, we'd just like to say thank you. And also to the women, especially the SMEs who stood to the challenge. I hear, to actually register a mask, I was speaking to the KEBS CEO, to actually get this measured, they go through, I think, 18 tests. So, they'll pull the string, they'll soak it in water, and the women, they stood by it, and they kept bringing their samples. You have to go bring your sample, bring it again, change it, change this. I mean, I'm happy to meet women who are telling me they've done over 20,000 masks. What better way to support women than to give them access to market? So inclusivity and gender equality is indeed a shared responsibility, and we endeavor to partner with government and like-minded organizations to realize this agenda, while realizing our industrial growth as a nation. So ladies and gentlemen, as we launch this new study, I look forward. I've been glimpsing a little bit at it. I really look to see whether it is as dire as they say it is. But for me, that doesn't really put me down, because the commitment is here. The commitment is in the room. For those of you who are here, thank you. For those of you who are online, it means you have an interest, and we will change this narrative. We will make women in manufacturing a large sector to actually reckon with. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Flora, the WIM chair, and reminding us the importance of planning to to succeed. And of course, even in the midst of a pandemic, there are a plethora of opportunities to take advantage of. I'd like to invite our next speaker, and he is the CAM chairman, and that is Mr. Muchai Kuniha. He took the helm earlier this year, and we're excited to hear more about what CAM is doing to support women and the future of women in manufacturing.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Those who are here and who are online, I want to recognize our former chair, Flora, CEO Phyllis, Dr. Mugenyi, thank you for assisting with this. CAM members who are here and the Women in Manufacturing Leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, and I suppose everyone who's watching online. So it's a pleasure for me to be here today to, I guess, represent the other side. Since it seems to be the other, there needs to be some gender balance today. So, but it's great to be here with CAM membership and the CAM team, the Women in Manufacturing team. Like Flora mentioned, we've been working on this for a couple of years, and it's a thing that we believe in strongly and have been supporting. I think it's now common knowledge. It's what everybody's doing is inclusivity and diversity in business. It's no longer an option. It's not a discussion point. It's about implementing the things that we have said we are going to do. And I'm glad to see that it's already happening. We have, since Flora was the chair, we have increased the gender balance of our board. We are continuing to work on that. I don't think we are there yet. We are still working on it. And it's the same with other businesses. I see a lot more businesses where the leadership, we are getting more women in leadership, and those are good examples for what is happening. I think we'll talk about COVID, and we've seen the social media thing that actually the country is doing best on COVID. A lot of them are led by women, right? So there is something, we're starting to see there's capability and capacity there, which has always been there. It's just to recognize that it's there and we can actually use it. And so it's good to see women taking strides in steering the growth of global manufacturing. And I think the important thing is also to show it as an opportunity or as a career option, not just something that other people do. And obviously, we also know that women have always been in manufacturing, because if you look at a lot of the factories that operate, there are always women working there on the factories floors and so on, but also in leadership, that women can be part of the leadership of those organizations. And going further, they can be part of the ownership, beyond the leadership, the ownership and the strategic direction of the business. And I think it's something that we need to grow. I think as people have noticed, if you have a development policy or an economic policy that doesn't capture 50% of your population, then you'll always be struggling. And in Kenya, at the moment, with our Big Four agenda, our goal has been to double our manufacturing capacity. So obviously, if you included the other 50%, perhaps you could get closer to double. You know, there are opportunities. We all have to put in something to get where we want to be. Like Flora has mentioned, I think the first thing is always to understand where you are. And that is the importance of reports. Analyzing where you are, getting a good understanding so that we can make policy choices, so we can make decisions and start investing and focusing on the key things that will move the needle, so to speak. And I think that applies not just when we come to diversity, inclusivity, and so on, the whole industrial space. Recently, we were releasing our CIP index, that's the Competitive Industrial Performance Index for Kenya with UNIDO, and we are not doing very well. So we might look at it as a bad report. It looks like a bad report, but I see it as a good thing. It gives us room to see what we can improve on. It shows us where the challenges are and what are the issues we can address. So similarly, the report we released today, I hope will be directing us to the things that we can do, the things we can influence and improve so that we can actually get more women in manufacturing. I think we've talked endlessly about COVID and the impact it's had, but we must also congratulate manufacturers, I think, for what we've been able to do through very difficult times. Because we were able to keep the country supplied, We're able to keep industry moving. I think Kam's line was keep Kenya moving. So we've managed to keep moving in difficult circumstances, and I know it's not everybody's been able to keep moving, but those who have been able to do so. We've managed to keep food on the shelves and other facilities. Nobody's run out of soap or toilet paper as happened in other countries. So we've been able to do that well, and that is useful. But this is not over by any means. We still have a long way to go with the pandemic, as we are seeing globally. The impact that it's going to have left on us is also going to be severe, and we're going to have to do quite a lot of repair/recovery work going through the coming months. So there's a lot we need to do, and we will be engaging with government. We are continuing to engage with them on some of the proposals that we look at. I think last week we released what we call a policy toolkit, dealing with some of the issues we hope government can address that are going to help all industrialists, men and women, to be able to move forward through these difficult times. I think the main interventions we are talking about is some policy stability. And I think we need to understand, like has been mentioned, in a new world, it gives us opportunity to rethink our policies. Whatever we thought we were doing before, whether it was working or not, it's a good time to assess it, see whether we can continue with it, and what are the new policies, what are the new opportunities that have arisen that we can address. And I think Flora mentioned some of the opportunities that have come in. We're also asking government to adopt a do no harm principle. We're saying that it is a difficult time for everybody, for individuals, for organizations, and also for government. I think we also have to recognize government is going to struggle on the funding side. But we are going to have to balance all these issues among ourselves. So we are saying, government, even as you start looking at your gaps in funding, remember us. We are also taking very tough measures. We are having to take tough measures in our organizations around what we are spending on, and we expect to see the same from government. So you may not be able to continue doing the same things that we had planned to do because COVID has disrupted us. So we hope we can engage with government on that way and try and reprioritize what we're going to spend money on, and focus especially on the things that are going to move the needle for everyone. In this space, we are talking about SMEs, and I think, like we've realized, I think we'll find out from the report as well, women are very much engaged in the SME sector. Like you said, there's a lot of manufacturing. Women are manufacturing somewhere. So what is the kind of support we are going to give them? That ought to be a priority area for government funding, government directing policy, because that is what is going to help us in the future. Even as people lose formal jobs or formal employment, as we've already seen reported, we know they'll be going into the SME sectors. What can we do to improve that area? So I don't want to talk too much because this is not our day. It's for the women in manufacturing. But I just want to thank the Business Advocacy Fund for helping us do this. And ICRW, Dr. Mugeni and your team, thank you again for working through this. And of course, Phyllis and Flora and your team, the women in manufacturing, I think keep beating that drum, because it is work to be done. We are not yet there. This is the beginning, and we are going to need encouragement and push to get things done. So thank you very much, and looking forward to seeing the report. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chair. And indeed, it's important to have a robust policy space. And speaking of policy making, our next speaker is the Nairobi Women Representative, Honorable Esther Passaris. She is also a renowned businesswoman, and now she is in the Chamber of Parliament and can hopefully push some of that policy that will open up the space and level the playing field for women when it comes to the manufacturing space. Honorable Passaris, the floor is yours.
Oh, this thing is hard. Good morning. First of all, Victoria, congratulations. We're so proud of you. I was having a social media blackout the week you won, and by the time I told my PA, can you just congratulate? Did you congratulate her? He goes, no, actually, I thought you would do that because you're friends. And I said, well, I was out of the space. You know, I retweeted everything, but congratulations, you've made us proud. It is deserved, but I rode the highway before you. I did. I rode from my house and ruined my back. So, okay, so women in manufacturing, the chair of both CAM and Women in Manufacturing, the CEO, Phyllis, is the principal secretary here, Ministry of Industrial? Yeah, Francis, no? Yes? Okay, you know, the protocol is you go through the program and all protocols observe, my fellow women. Okay, so, all right, women in manufacturing. Let me tell you, I think it's fantastic what CAM is doing. Actually segregating and saying that we need a study that just looks at women. So I have to congratulate you for that effort, because there is manufacturing where women and men belong, and then there's manufacturing where women are trying to get their space. Now let me tell you, I went into manufacturing, I think in 1992. I'm 56 this year, okay? All right, so in 1992, I went into manufacturing. And I didn't know it was manufacturing. I just thought I was running a tailoring shop. But I had 300 workers, majority of whom were deaf, so I was a social entrepreneur. I didn't even know I was a social entrepreneur before they coined the word. But I employed 300 people. I was manufacturing T-shirts. I brought the first Challenger from the USA. You know, God knows how I got connected. I had an American boyfriend. So I got connected to the US, and I got a Challenger, which was the biggest printing machine. Brought it here, automatic printing, no manual, mathematic stuff, you know. And I was manufacturing. I was the only licensed Coca-Cola manufacturer in East and Central Africa. The next one was in South Africa. I was licensed from Atlanta. I mean, a girl in Kenya, in her 30s, licensed by Atlanta to produce Coca-Cola merchandise, given the manufacturing of all the T-shirts for the Atlanta Olympics, signed an agreement with Coca-Cola. Agreements, my ladies, honestly, get yourself a good lawyer. You have to invest in 3 good things: a good lawyer and a good auditor, okay? Those are crucial, all right? Marry one sometimes might help as well, you know? Okay. I think it's kind of nice to be able to discuss it at home and at work as well. Okay, so everything went wrong. Atlanta Olympics thought they would do 1 million T-shirts. I set up the factory for 1 million T-shirts. Coca-Cola, Kenyans, you know, Kenyans on Twitter are very rough, huh? They talk, they yap, but let me tell you, Kenyans on Twitter don't give a hoot about anything. They just yap. In fact, if there's something going on in America that is wrong, the people that are blasting the person that is doing the wrong in America are Kenyans. I don't know, something about us, we just have venom. Coined by Nyerere, men eat men society. That's what we are. We bring each other down. We've got those PhDs in the wrong areas. So, because I didn't read the contract properly, I'd taken loans, Coca-Cola just said, you know what, Kenyans are not buying the T-shirt. The idea was that people would buy the T-shirts to send the African teams to Atlanta, all right? But nobody bought the T-shirts. So I was stuck with these T-shirts. Coca-Cola wanted me to produce and sell to recover my money, but they were supposed to pay me, and then we sell and recover their money. So in the end, you know, when I went to Coca-Cola and I said, by the way, I need to be paid. I've bought all these investments. What happened? Coca-Cola said, sorry, your contract was not for 1 million T-shirts, it was for 100,000 or 10,000. And I actually had the original contract. So at that time, I met the president of the Coca-Cola company. And he said to me, he says, Esther, you either take what we're giving you, you know, we can hire the best of lawyers. And you know what? I settled and I lost my company. My heart was destroyed. Did I give up? No. I went into Adopt a Light. It wasn't direct manufacturing, but it was an industry that was male-dominated. I remember Mheshimiwa Mwenje being on TV and saying, this woman, how can she have such a big contract? She'll be making money, 100,000. I drove from the beginning of Mombasa Road to the airport, and I found that if I was counting 100,000, I lost touch. And she's going to get that money till Jesus Christ comes. So, Parliament, people paid money, and now I know how committees work. Huh? I went into politics. I went into politics because I wanted to understand, why is this government fighting me when I'm doing something good for the government? Why are the people in office fighting me? Wadhika, God rest his soul, he's gone, dead, never won a position. Prayers work, women. Prayers, let me tell you. Vengeance is mine, sent the Lord. It's always worked for me. So pray, and do the Esther dry fast. It works. I lost the Adoptalite contract. Why? Because of a hostile takeover by Magnet Ventures. And until today, I've never been able to have my day in court. I'm a member of Parliament, and I understand. I remember Mheshimiwa Mwenje was living in our street, and he came to me and he said, he sent out letter to the Residents Association of Kitisuru saying that I'm very sick, I'm ailing. Can everyone please send me something because I've got a huge medical bill. At that time, I think he was very sick, and I just sent 100,000. And he came to my house and he said to me, he says, I was told Mheshimiwa Mwenje is at your gate, and I asked him to come in. And I said to Mheshimiwa Mwenje, you have come into my house and I'm grateful. He goes, I came to say thank you. I said, for what? He goes, I've been a member of Parliament and I had so many colleagues. Not even one of them has sent me 100,000. You're the one who sent me 100,000. I said, I just sent it out of neighborliness, and I understood you were very sick. And he told me the people who paid the committees at that time to bring me down. He says, we got 5 million. And ask Mheshimiwas, when we get 5 million, Bona, and we share, it's a lot. We will give you heaven and hell at the same time. I said, I got the hell. I don't know who got the heaven. But being in an industry that is male-dominated, you have your women wear your trousers and be bold. Be like Martha Karua and be told that you're a man. It doesn't matter. Because when you're a strong woman, you're likened to a man. When you're a strong man, when you're a weak man, you're likened to a woman. Are you understanding? So that's the crossing. So Kenya Association of Manufacturers and this study that you're putting out, it's not enough to give us a study. It's the same way I say to people who fund women in politics. It's not enough to take us to training on how to be leaders. What you need, like right now, I've got some Tanzanian MPs calling me, telling me, Esther, please send me money. It's about Mbesha. It's about money. It's about, having the resources to compete at that level where you're able to brand yourself, and in Kenya, politics is about cash. They don't want to hear. Since I became an elected member of Parliament, I feel like I run a parallel registrar of deaths. Everybody who dies, I'm told. Why? Because I have to buy the coffin, I have to give the transport, and I'm wondering, how can I do this? Anyone who's sick, if NHIF is not paying for your scan, I'm supposed to pay it. If your bursary, you're not getting bursary, or you've gotten bursary but it's not enough, I'm supposed to pay it. So let me tell you, we're living in a space, the pandemic. Do you know, you guys, you're living in a space that was lived in the Spanish flu. So you can pat yourselves on the back and say, I lived through a pandemic. All right? And I hope you continue living through the pandemic until we get over it. It is teaching us a lot of things. It is teaching us about family. Most mothers don't even want their children at home, by the way. Okay? And when you become a woman in manufacturing, the one thing I want to tell you, do not neglect the family. Do not neglect the kids. And even remember, that man that you have at home, he doesn't know that you're a woman in manufacturing. When you get home, you're his woman. You're the mother of his children. You're supposed to be subordinate. And by the way, if your husband doesn't know what you're earning, please don't tell him. Okay? Because don't tell him. If it's not part of your business, don't. You'd rather tell him that the business is struggling and ask him for advice, even if you know that the advice he gives you is wrong. And by the way, let me tell you about men. Do you know men have got egos? And I've learned over the years to manipulate their egos. And I don't know if it's in the study. If the study was done by men, you probably don't have this issue that I'm going to tell you right now. When you've got an idea from your men and you know it's a bullshit idea, it's not going to take you anywhere, let me tell you, and you have implemented your own idea, can I tell you about the man's ego? You didn't implement his idea, you implemented yours. But you go to him and say, honey, you know that idea you gave me? And you talk about your idea. I did it and it's working and I thank you. His ego will not allow him to accept that it was your idea. He will take the praise and you will move on with harmony. So always make your ideas that are working his ideas. Let him get the credit. At the end of the day, you're the one doing the job and you're the one enjoying the money and the security that you need for your business. So for me, another thing I want to tell you, pooling resources. Come. Government announces so many resources for women in business. Even with COVID, there was so much resources. Me, I don't even know where the food is. I don't even know where the resources are. I actually left the health committee because I was like, okay, hold on. I cannot sit and watch reports where we're buying PPEs for 9,000 and they're available in the market for 6,000, and they don't even want to hear about the suppliers who are giving it at 6,000. So I just decided this is not the committee I want to be in. I don't want to be tainted with matters life and death. So this report, I will make an effort to read through it. I've seen banks, there were banks that were taking women in construction, and women have got that space in construction. There's books that have celebrated women in various scopes. I think it is important, that mentorship program that you want to have, it is crucial that you have that gathering. Have a cocktail party every week, have a guest speaker. I know women in business do that through Mudhoni. So, and there's a lot of selling of things, but women are becoming traders. And there's nothing wrong. Become traders by all means, all right? Become housewives by all means, all right? Become employees by all means. But at the end of the day, when we're climbing those ladders in whatever field, including manufacturing, let us climb those ladders together. Because whether you're in manufacturing or you're in trading or you're in professionalism or you're in just employment, right? You are all interconnected. You are the tribe I call women. Forget about Kikuyu, Kalenjin, Luo, whatever. Forget. Me kwanza mnusu-nusu, I don't even know where I belong. When ODM has a meeting for Luyas and a meeting for Luos, I'm like, and me? You know? So I want you to understand that we can forge ahead with a tribe called women. And when it comes to 2022, you manufacturing women, you know we will need money to win the men. Let me tell you about my Nairobi. My Nairobi county is the largest in Kenya. It is 17 constituencies, 85 wards. The 85 wards in the municipal council, we should all be ashamed, has only 5 women that were elected. The rest are nominated, 80 were men. We can identify the women that can become leaders in the grassroots and give them the tools from now. And the tools is not training, it is training and resources to give them to be able to brand themselves. Constituencies, we have 17 constituencies, a senator, governor, and a woman rep. Women rep, thank God I competed with another woman, so I'm in, guaranteed. We have only Kasarani as a woman, elected, all right? Masi Gakuya, only 1 woman elected, 16 are men, senator are men, governor are men, all right? I mean, this is crazy. We should have at least 10 women. So we were not getting the 2/3 gender bill from the men in parliament. We're not even getting resources. An MP has 100 million, I have 6 million per constituency, so you can imagine. I run around like a cuckoo, headless cuckoo, and they're basically sitting in their constituency with 100 million. So this is the beginning of a very good journey, and that is why I decided I was going to come. I came on Kenyan time, but I can see you guys are English. I was shocked to find you already started, but I want you to take this, learn, share your experience, critique it, and at the end of the day, let's get a working document. When it comes to laws, legislation, regulation, policies, you know I need to have one. Okay, so give me whatever it is that you need me to do for you, whether it's a question, whether it's a motion, whether it's a statement, whether it's a policy, a regulation, a law. I am here, I am with you. All right, I want to say thank you very much, congratulations, and God bless all of you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Passaris, for a very spirited speech and for showing us the importance of being bold, even in the face of cultural and institutional barriers and opposition. It can be done, and I'm sure the report will be speaking to some of those barriers as well that women face in the manufacturing industry. We heard the chair speak about this earlier on in terms of government support. We know under the Big Four agenda, the government is seeking to boost the contribution to GDP by the manufacturing sector to 15% by 2022. And he talked about the importance of bringing on the 50%, the women who are not playing in the game just yet, to help boost that capacity. I'd like to invite our next speaker via video, and that is the PS from the industry, Dr. Francis Owino, and he'll be speaking about the WIM agenda and how the government can help further support it. Take a look.
morning, everybody. It gives me great pleasure to be with you this morning to preside over this launch. This is indeed a big day for Kenya. Kenya, as part of the global family, has both policy and legal frameworks that have been ratified to support the globe and the region in women issues. There are several global policy and legal frameworks that target the promotion of gender equality and diversity that aim to increase women's participation in workplace, which have been ratified by our country. One of these is the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, which obligates state parties to take appropriate action and eliminate discrimination against women. The other policies, the African Charter in Human and People's Rights and the Maputo Protocol 2005, which requires states to prohibit and condemn all forms of harmful practices that negatively affect the human rights of women and are contrary to recognized international standards, the 2024 Article 13 of the Maputo Protocol. States are also required to promote women's access to credit, training, skills development, and extension services to reduce the level of poverty amongst women and to ensure that human development indicators concerning women are mainstreamed into development policies and programs. The next is Article 3 of the Protocol on Amendments of Constitutive Acts of the African Union, which is deliberate on women's participation in inclusive development and specifically decision-making in political, economic, and socio-cultural areas. And finally, the AU strategy for gender equality and women's empowerment includes a commitment to ensure the participation of women in Africa's development agenda. It includes women's economic empowerment in sustainable development. The African Union has instituted the Women, Gender and Development Directorate to coordinate AU efforts to achieve gender equality and ensure that African states implement actions in line with the Solemn Declaration on Gender Equality in Africa. The country is driven by our industrial policy. So Kenya's industrial policy is anchored on a number of reforms outlined in 3 policy blueprints that contain proposals targeting productivity and general performance of the industrial sector. Number 1, the Poverty Reduction Strategy Paper 2005. The second one, the Economic Recovery and Wealth Creation 2003. And finally, the Vision 2030, which was done in 2007. The first 2 policies are gender blind, although Vision 2030 is gender sensitive and makes efforts to address existing economic and social inequalities. So those are basically a nutshell of the various initiatives that the government has continued to intervene on to support women in manufacturing in Kenya.
Those remarks, our chief guest for today. Now, the moment we have been waiting for. It is the climax of the event, the launch of the Women in Manufacturing report. And we'll be getting to hear a bit more of what's in that report in terms of the findings. At this point, I'd like to invite the CAM chair, Mr. Muchai, as well as the Women in Manufacturing chair to join us on stage as we unveil this report. We'll also have our key guests join us as well, but first, both chairs, if you can join us on stage, and we can call up the rest of our VIP guests as well. We'll have you stand on either side. Fantastic. And I'd also like to invite our other key guest, Honorable Passaris, to join as well. The CAM CEO, Phyllis Wakiaga, to join, as well as Dr. Mugenyi to join the key guests on stage as we unveil the first ever Women in Manufacturing report. Finally, a look into the state and status of women in this key industry across the continent. I think we'll do a brief countdown in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there we have it, the official launch of the Women in Manufacturing report. And as the key guests get a copy of that very crucial report to let us know what we can expect, what needs to be fixed, what capacities need to be boosted when it comes to women in this industry. It is still a male-dominated field. However, if we level the playing field and ensure that it is a conducive space and environment for women, we can see them thrive in manufacturing. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, the official launch of the Women in Manufacturing report, and this courtesy of the International Center for Research on Women and CAM. And we know the Women in Manufacturing program was the brainchild of Flora Mutai and Phyllis Wakiaga, who saw the need to boost the capacity of women. You may now take your seats. Thank you so much. An exciting time for the manufacturing sector, an exciting time certainly for women as we look at how to further boost their capacity. At this point, let us get a clip up on the screens to further explain what we can expect in the report.
Good morning, everybody. It gives me great pleasure to be with you this morning to preside over this launch.
My name is Isaac Maluki, and I'm the director of Shona EPZ. We mainly do garment manufacturing. We have employed about 86% of our total employees are female. We feel that every time we have another lady coming in to work with Shona, that's someone who's going to impact positively. Probably up to 5 other people from the child that they have, to the caregiver for the child, to their parents. One of the things that I really have noticed is that there's passion in the way women take their responsibilities. When we look at our production area, we have a mix, yes, of male and female, but even in the supervisory level, our female supervisors perform a lot better than the male supervisors. Why? Again, we look around and it's not that they're stronger, but they have the passion. And women are more patient. Women will work at something from morning to evening and they'll be consistent. Unfortunately for us guys, we get tired halfway and we want to see the fastest way to finish this job and get done with it. But for the women, they are consistent. They just keep going. First of all, I think holding sessions and about women in manufacturing is something that is very, very important, because now all those who are potential entrepreneurs who are thinking, is this really for me? Can I really do it? Have now a place where they can actually air their questions, voice their concerns, and have them met with solutions and answers for them. It will help them to actually say, you know what, now that I have the answers, I can step out. So I think being the first report that will be coming out for women in manufacturing, it's going to create a huge...
We're going to have Crispin Afifu from the ICRW, and he'll be giving us a brief look into some of the findings, and this will help inform the panel discussion as well. Crispin?
Good morning. Chair, I want to tell you that when you said you are representing the other side, at least I'm here to support you. My name is Crispin Afifu, a technical specialist with ICRW, which is the International Center for Research on Women And this conversation that we are going to have enough things clear, that number one, when we're talking about gender or mainstreaming gender, is that we are looking at how we can consistently integrate gender concerns in all processes, in all programs, in all plans, in work, in resource allocation and management, in regulatory issues, and even in monitoring and reporting. So that means then, over and above, just as the chair said earlier, whereas, and even the PS, whereas we've had, for example, a very comprehensive legal framework, it's possible that some of those frameworks are actually either gender neutral. Yes, they point out gender concerns but do nothing about it. But also right now and here, and going by the Women program, we want to look at how do we then integrate gender concerns in all matters of manufacturing. So if we can, yes, let's go to the next slide. And while I want us to concentrate on what you're seeing up there, we want to get the background on where we are, how have we come this far. So number one, we all understand that manufacturing is actually a key pillar in the economy of this country. It also affects all other aspects of development and all other aspects of the economic growth of this nation. A case in point, for example, currently we're talking about the Big Four agenda, whereby we cannot talk about health without manufacturing. We cannot talk about food security without manufacturing. We can't also even talk about housing without manufacturing. And so it cuts across. But there's something I want us to see from the graph there, that yes, in the year 2018, 2019, there was sort of an increase in terms of the growth and contribution. That is to the regard to the GDP in terms of billions of shillings. But when you look at that increase of around 700 million shillings, there is also the flip side of it is within the same period, there's only a very marginal increase in the number of women that are, for example, actively engaged as the workforce. There's only an increase of 1%, which was barely, we are talking about a total of 49,000 women in formal employment within manufacturing. And so that number, compared to the increase in terms of the GDP contribution, there is a question there that we need to answer and say what will happen if these numbers of women actually could increase in many ways that we're going to discuss here today. Some other thing, a case in point, even as you move there, that one. Someone has mentioned here about the contribution to the economy by the women who are actually engaged in manufacturing, and they're not aware that actually they are in manufacturing. And so you could say that the Kenyan women are actually very serious people when it comes to businesses and the kind of work they engage in. They're able to feed themselves and feed for their families and engage in various levels of businesses. But with specific mention to manufacturing firms within the informal economy, we are looking at 23% of the firms in the larger economy being informal. Informal in the sense that they're yet to conform to the regulations, to the laws. They are yet to really have their businesses done in a particular way. But then one of the things that we're going to answer is also the fear as to why most of these small, the micro enterprises do not want to be formalized. But also, what is the benefit of them getting formalized, even as we look at them working in complementary with big manufacturers in this country. So with that that you're seeing on the screen right there, many jobs can be created with formalization. Many, the contribution to the economic growth definitely will be something else, not what we're seeing here now. And yes, even in terms of engaging women that will be more skilled to continue to make their contribution in manufacturing, that will also be realized. One other thing then we saw from what we found out in this report, whereas we've seen that there's a growth in the contribution to the economy. There is even a targeted increase from about 7.5 to 15% by 2022 within the manufacturing contribution. When you look at the global gender index, that all has various parameters. For example, there is one on aspects of economic participation, the educational attainment, health attainment, and of course political environment. When you you use those parameters, and Kenya then gets to be ranked at number 109 out of 153. And that's why the chair earlier, you were able to see that there is a gap in many ways in how we operate, in how we do things. Yet we have a very elaborate legislative framework, as we're going to see in a few minutes. Another thing there is when you pick out of the 4 parameters of the Global Gender Index, when you pick out the economic participation and the opportunities for women, you can see that Kenya again stands at number 114 out of 153, which of course then it means that we are nowhere near gender parity when it comes to engagement of women, not just as women consumers, but as industrialists, as entrepreneurs, as skilled people who can make a contribution to the economy of this country, but also be able to transform industry. The WIM chair earlier said that we are at the point of industrial revolution, with automation 4.0. That requires that there is a change of skill set for the women to be able then to make a meaningful contribution in terms of manufacturing. Now, when you, with all this, then you realize that we are still at that 1% increase that you saw up there. And that then tells us that, yes, there is a problem with inadequate resourcing that has just been mentioned here by Honorable Passaris. There is a challenge also in coordination. And so even as we produce these reports, the framework of the parties that will be involved to be able to ensure things get done has to be done, and I think that is where the Kenya Association of Manufacturers comes in to make a contribution to ensure that there is a coordinated effort to ensure these things get done. And when this is done also, we realize that then we can be able to to move and be able to realize the growth. And so I always say that even with the projected percentage in terms of growth, we will never get there ourselves as a country if a big population of this, half of the population of this country is actually left behind or not involved, or involved in a manner that, yes, they are not actively engaged. Now, those are the things that the WIM program looked at and ICRW, so that we could be able to answer the following questions. And you can go to the slide that is written research objectives. Now, with all that background, then, we are talking about this report being able to determine the extent of women's ownership, leadership of manufacturing companies, and even workforce. So that is important for us to know where are the floras, where are the ladies of this country that are industry leaders, and of course, where are the women who are leaders in terms of the very senior levels, and of course, what does that have to do with increasing the space of the engaging more female at the workforce level. It also was to establish the challenges that women face in the manufacturing sector, the challenges that are faced by women as owners or founders of these industries, but also the challenges that the women leaders face, and also the challenges that the workforce faces. Also knowing that, for example, if we take CAM, for instance, has about 14 sectors, and there are many others. So when you look at those sectors, where are our women in terms, for example, be it pharmaceuticals, automobiles, and construction, where are they, and which challenges are they facing? Why are they not able to come on board? Or those that are on board, what can they do in terms of even mentorship to be able to ensure that the space can attract many others on board? We also we are assessing the policy, legislative, and institutional frameworks so that we could say, how do they mainstream gender equality and inclusion? And how do they not do that? And where is the gap, and how can it be? How can that gap be reduced? And even at the end of the day, that we can have policies that are, as it has been said earlier, policies that are not just gender sensitive, but gender transformative in their nature. Transformation here means that these policies are not just going to look at the gender issues the way they are and leave it there, but there is an action to be able to change them in order to have all genders, that's male and female, adequately involved. And lastly, objective is to provide recommendations for mainstreaming gender equality and inclusion in the sector. Now, those being the guiding objectives of this report, then, I want to call Sarah for just a few minutes so that you could also now take us through the next set. what did we find out? Having already established the background of this study, what were the unique things that we can talk about this moment? You can pick it from there.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Sarah Nduta. I'm a technical specialist at the International Center for Research on Women. And I'm so glad to be here and to be able to talk about these findings of this very noble research that we did. Going into the study findings, we set out to review the legal and legislative frameworks that guide the manufacturing sector. And we looked at a number of laws and a number of policy frameworks at a global level and at local level. So we have a table on our screen that is listing a number of laws, and we tried to assess how gender responsive are these laws. Are they able to support women to grow in the manufacturing business and to be able to thrive and to expand their businesses? So out of these laws, we were only able to identify 2 that were actually gender transformative. That is the Constitution of Kenya and the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. These 2 are able to provide provisions that are able to enable women to expand on their businesses. We further looked at some of the global frameworks. We know that we live within a community of nations, and there are so many laws that we have ratified, and we are a party to as a country. Moving from ratification into implementation has been a challenge, and a lot of those laws just remain within our books. They've not been properly implemented, and this is a key question for us and for our parliament members on how to move forward from ratification to implementing. How can they be able to support the industry to be able to use these laws to develop frameworks within the organizational level that can be able to support the manufacturing sector and to enable women to be more involved, to be more participatory in the industry. We have one key document, that this is the sessional paper number 2 of 2019. It's the National Policy on Gender and Development. It lists some diverse and very encouraging statements for women that you can pick up. This should be a key document that the industry should be able to look at, to be able to inform us even as we seek to develop our human resource policies and to develop frameworks to be able to enhance gender equity and gender representation within the sector. So it looks at issues like reviewing skills development programs, improving employment conditions for the female labor force, recognizing unpaid care, and also how are we able to help women be able to overcome the household responsibilities, the child care responsibilities, to be able to offer more time for productive work within the manufacturing industry. We surveyed 100 companies within the manufacturing industry, and we were keen to look at the leadership and ownership within those companies. So as you can see in that chart, we further went to stratify these companies into either female and male-led. We went further to local and multinational. And as you can see, we have quite a big representation. The 20% that's down there at the gray color, the 20% multinational female-led, compared to the 12%, meaning that women are really participating in this industry. And as you can see across the different representation in the different bars, women are really trying and doing well. But from our findings, key thing that we noted is that it's likely that women have just come into the industry. Men have been dominating quite a bit within the industry, and women are now just coming into the industry. Looking at the length of operation by type of leadership, we stratified the different companies by either being male-led, female-led, local, multinational. And we looked at for how long have they been in operation. And if you can look at the yellow bars that have the above 21 years, if you could look at it keenly, then we are seeing that most of the male-led companies and male-owned companies have actually been in existence for quite some period of time, beyond 21. We only had one female-led company, which was being led, which was a multinational company being led by a woman. Again, also speaking to the recent entry of women into the industry, and that's something that we should be happy about, that we are now coming up and being seen. Looking at the female senior managers by type of leadership, so we wanted to know within these companies, how are women represented within the leadership? Looking at the same stratification of the male-led, female-led, local, and multinational owned. We used a third representation to show as the minimum proportion that is required to catalyze the gender equality within companies as the benchmark. The female-led local companies had more women in senior management compared to the male-led local companies. The family companies that were led by women in senior management had also had more women within them. And even though our sample size was small, we were able to come up with the verdict that most of the companies that had many women within their leadership, they were likely to have more women employed within them. Another reason why we should encourage women to get into the industry and to take up more senior roles to be able to drive the industry. We looked at gender inclusion practices, and if you could look at the very last statement, the management is committed to gender inclusion practices. So we looked at companies that had less than 33% of women in management and companies that had more than 33% of women in management. And what the results show us is that those companies that had more than 33%, which is a third of the women in management, were more committed towards gender inclusion practices and policies, developing processes to be able to guide gender inclusion within their companies. So I think we should be all geared up to within the industry to ensure that we have as many women within our companies as possible. So I'll take you through the next phase, which is the analysis of the study findings, and basically what we think these findings mean for the industry and for the sector. I think something that has been less understood by many manufacturing companies is what is the gender dividend for bringing on board women? Why should we increase the number of women within manufacturing? We further went to look into this, and from a lot of the literature and a lot of studies that have been done, not just in manufacturing but also in other sectors, is that gender balanced boards are 20% more likely to have enhanced business outcomes. Gender inclusive cultures are 9% more likely to have improved business performance. So it means that the more women we have within our industry, the more we are likely to perform, the more we are likely to be able to attract and retain talent, the more we are likely to have enhanced company reputation. And this has also been backed up by a recent ILO report, the International Labour Organization, a 2019 report that showed that at least companies that had more women within their companies had up to at least 60% ability to be more profitable and to even have better innovations. Looking also at the legal and policy frameworks, like we have seen, we have so many laws, but we are only implementing, I think, only very few that have been able to guide us so far. So despite this elaborate policy and legal framework, this has not translated into equitable participation of women in the industry. So we are lagging behind in terms of implementation, in terms of enforcing compliance within our industry. So we need to work a lot more on that. And then a key thing that came up from the study is that we have a deeply rooted social and cultural context where manufacturing has been seen to be a man's job, which makes us not even socialize our girls towards manufacturing, encouraging them to take maybe like STEM courses to be able to gain entry and to participate in the industry. So I think that's also something that we need to look towards. The legal frameworks aim to guarantee the equal rights have not achieved their major goals, sometimes due to systemic barriers. For example, we know that we have a very elaborate law regarding, for example, the land acquisition ownership. But for women and girls, inheriting land is still a system issue within our countries. And land would come in so well when we want to obtain maybe like financial assistance through the bank. So we are still lagging behind, and we need to do something regarding that. One of the things that we also did within our study is to look at this woman who is participating in the industry from an ecological kind of system. So we stratified this system into three, where we have interpersonal and social factors. That's the blue inner circle that you can see on the screen. And then we had the red circle, which represents the organizational or business factors. And towards the outer darker blue circle, we have the macro level that represents the policy factors. And so for interpersonal and societal factors, we have issues like skills and education that affect them at the individual level. Organizational factors, we have those systems within our companies that either enable or create barriers towards women participation. At policy level, we have already seen the policy frameworks and the legal frameworks, and the lacks or thereofs or haves or regarding encouraging participation. So for this ecological system, we looked at both the challenges and the opportunities. So for the challenges, we identified a list of challenges that limit women's achievement of their full potential and full participation within the industry. For the opportunities side, we looked at strategies towards how can we be able to bridge that gap. So in the next few slides, we will be breaking this model and looking at the particulars for each of those sides. So on the first, we look at the barriers. So we have stratified, and you can see the list on the different small rectangles on your left. So the policy factors, we have listed them for the women. These include, of course, the gender-neutral laws, the limited enrollment and retention, and the completion of STEM, even when they enroll in technical institutions. Business-related factors include the poor access to capital for women entrepreneurs, the limited access to technology, to markets, to training, limited mentorship opportunities, limited access to markets and information, and vulnerability to sexual exploitation. And this was highlighted especially with regards to obtaining compliances, the licenses, and even financial assistance. With regards to interpersonal factors, we had inadequate technical and marketing skills. We had low risk tolerance. For example, the banking sector felt like women are more risk aversive, so they really do not want to take loans or to take up some of the financial products for fear of repayment. And then importantly, we had the triple gender roles, where we are seeing this one woman as a wife, as a mother. She has kids, she has household responsibilities, she had childcare needs, and she's expected to go to work and be productive and compete with men. And she's also supposed to participate at community level. So the triple gender roles for women was a key thing that they kept highlighting, especially the women employees within the industry, as one of the key things that made them not participate ably and fully within the industry. So looking at the other side of the opportunities, we had as many opportunities as we had challenges. And importantly for me is that each of the challenges can be matched with an opportunity that we can encourage and help the women to identify and to take up, to be able to increase their ability to participate more competently and ably with the with the men within the industry. And I think another key opportunity that has also been brought up by the discussions this morning is that we also need to engage men, to make them allies of women, so that they can not look as competitors and as a threat, but rather to encourage us to take up even more senior and more technical roles within the industry. So we have a list of recommendations that we have stratified based on the different audiences. For the legal frameworks, what we feel that we need to do is to review all the gender-neutral legal frameworks affecting manufacturing and be able to create guidelines for gender-responsive implementation. We need to strengthen the implementation of the existing gender-aware laws, such as the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, that allows women 30% of all procurement opportunities for government. We need to strengthen our public sector oversight agencies and come up with effective collaborations that can be able to help us to monitor the implementation of the different laws that affect women in manufacturing. In terms of policy, we need to consolidate all the regulatory, the compliance requirements into a single space. We know that we already have the Huduma centers, we have the e-business platform, but we need to ensure that, for example, like for licenses, if I'm obtaining a license, then there should just be a single point for all the licenses that I might require as an entrepreneur. We need to increase STEM awareness campaigns at rural and at urban settings, and encouraging girls and women to uptake these courses. We also need to work with the Ministry of Education to ensure that we have affirmative spaces. For example, when they are doing enrollment, ensuring that 30% of those slots are kept aside for women. And we can also influence the curriculum and the courses that they offer at that level to make sure that they're offering courses that can make women competitive. We need to lobby for targeted financial incentives for women, especially those who are leading and owning manufacturing businesses. For business member organizations such as CAM, I think we need to develop transformative models and standards that address workplace gender gaps. For example, within the example that I gave for the balancing work requirements and household responsibilities, for CAM and for other business member organizations, if we could encourage our memberships to set up possibly childcare facilities within the working or near the working places, I'm sure this would enable the women to be able to juggle on and to fit within the current shift formats that would allow them to maybe produce more and work more and maybe get paid more. We need the private sector to lead public-private dialogue that can be integrative, inclusive, and to be able to respond to the different gender needs. We need to facilitate individual companies with toolkits that can provide clear guidance and indicators to gender mainstreaming. I think at this level we need to begin doing gender assessment and gender needs inquiries within our companies. We need to develop an incubation platform for women-owned manufacturing businesses where we can grow women and they can share skills and talents so that we can increase our competitiveness within the industry. For business owners or the manufacturers, a key thing that we need to do is to strengthen the grievance and response mechanism for compliance so that we can mitigate the exploitation and intimidation of the women as was reported within this study. We need to adopt gender-sensitive and transformative human resource policies that can be, for example, gender equity, equity in hiring, equity in retention, equity in promotion, to be able to increase productivity, profitability, and performance. We need to initiate mentorship programs to allow women with experience to mentor others. For the women who are working within the workforce or the industries, we need to support them to come together, to be able to come up with networks and associations to amplify their voices and to be able to fight for their spaces. We need to identify and tap into existing opportunities for career advancement and skills through TVET. We need to encourage them and to take up these courses so that they can become competitive and so that they can be able to thrive within the industry. We also need to advocate for the institutionalization of gender-responsive policies against discrimination, sexual exploitation, and other vices that are gender-related. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Crispin from ICRW, with that comprehensive presentation on some of the findings from the report. Hopefully, for those of you who are not with us physically, you can get your hands on it just to dig deep and do a deep dive into those numbers and data. It's important for all of us to know what's happening in the manufacturing sector. A quick update for those of you who are watching on YouTube and Facebook and you have questions for our panel, please use the hashtag KIM Report on Twitter, on Facebook. I can already see there are quite a few questions coming in, and we'll be fielding them to our panelists in just a few. So if you have any questions, again, hashtag KIM Report, seeing a lot of activity around that. Oh, my apologies. WIM. I don't know where the K came from, but probably from CAM. WIM Report. My apologies. WIM Report on Twitter and on Facebook, and we'll get those questions to our panel. Let me introduce the panel really quickly so you know who these brilliant women are seated on stage with me. I'll begin with the Managing Director for BOC Kenya, Marian Mwangi. She is an accomplished senior executive with over 20 years of local and international experience in the commercial and general management, predominantly in the manufacturing sector. She is passionate about women in manufacturing agenda, and you'll be hearing a lot more from her on that. Also, we have Mary Ngechu. She is the Lineplast Group MD. I've jumped several seats, and she is a woman in manufacturing, a social entrepreneur, and she has a decade-long family-run manufacturing enterprise, which started as a labels-making printing business inside a modest space within the Kenya Industrial Estates premises in Nairobi, and has grown into Lineplast Group Limited, a packaging company providing solutions and serving a wide range of clients, including food, beverage, cosmetics, agro-vet, pharmaceuticals, and East Africa, and have had the privilege of actually taking a tour of Lineplast, and it is an incredible operation. We also have the Nature's Touch founder, Caroline Ngugi, and together with her partner, Diana Ochola, they have co-founded Nature's Touch Kenya, an MSME manufacturer of 100% natural personal care products. I'll be seeing you after this to see if we can sample that as well. Wonderful, and she'll be telling us about her journey. We also have a director of ICRW Africa, Dr. Cleopatra Mujeni, and she has extensive experience in the research field, a PhD in public health policy, and a gender expert, 15 years experience in sub-Saharan Africa, carrying out research, policy analysis, fundraising, strategic planning, developing and evaluating programs. Well, she championed the development of the first ever research on women, and she has a range of experience and knowledge on that she'll be telling us about later on. And last but not least, we have the CAM CEO, Phyllis Wakiaga. And she is a credible voice in the industry with over 1,000 members. She represents CAM on various boards and chairs in the Kenya Water Industrial Alliance. Ms. Wakiaga is also the United Nations Global Compact Network and the Kenya Chapter Board Chair, as well as a member of the Kenya COVID-19 Fund Board. Ladies, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me during this panel discussion. Let me begin with Phyllis, because really we wouldn't be here if you hadn't thought of Women in Manufacturing program. And just tell us what spurred this. And I know you did co-founded this with Flora Mutai, but what spurred the need for a Women in Manufacturing program under CAM?
Thank you very much, Victoria, for the introduction. And for us, we are very excited to be here today because this report is first in its kind. And when the Women in Manufacturing program was founded, it was founded on 17th of May 2017. At that time, Flora Mutai was the first ever chair of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers after 57 years. And we wanted to have a program in place that would increase the gender inclusion within the manufacturing sector, because it was evident that the sector is male-dominated, and we needed to see more female-owned businesses growing. We needed to see more female employees rising up to managerial roles, to leading organizations, and just higher participation, even at the shop floor, of women in business. So we founded the program in 2017 to increase the market access of women manufactured products into the market so that they are able to compete with the other products in the market. We're also looking at the global space, not just the Kenyan market, but how we can grow their participation globally. We also wanted the network to be a place where women can come together and find solutions and have discussions about the issues that affect the growth of their business. And I think today's report is one of those type of discussions about what do we need to do at policy level, what do we need to do at farm level, how do we support women businesses to grow within the country. So that was really one of the key visions that we were looking at, basically around growth, inclusion of women within the manufacturing sector and their participation in the world market and in the global stage.
And I'm sure you're glad to see how it's manifested. Look at the women sitting next to you. Mary, let me come to you because this has been your journey. This is your story. How you grew from a small to medium-sized enterprise. Just that growth path must have been something, and how you've been able to sustain it.
Thank you for Victoria. I think being a woman in manufacturing has not been an easy journey, and more so growing from a small enterprise like Nature's Touch. I'm familiar to them. We started our business, me and my husband, with one employee, and what we started was manufacturing label. And we bought in a second-hand machine that we bought from a local other printing press. And from that, we understood the industry, and we bought our next machine. And learning the business, we realized that all the labels we were making were getting into plastic containers or into packaging in a way. Then we thought that it was necessary to integrate packaging, and we started manufacturing packaging. Our first production was PET bottles, and when we started our PET bottles, we targeted the liquor industry, because there was a lot of liquor that was being packed in PET bottles. Then that went, and we had to rethink on how do we grow ourselves into a more sustainable business. And we looked into the industry and diversified across the industry, where we started manufacturing for the pharmaceutical industry, for the cosmetic industry, for the agro and the vet industry, and looking into understanding that we need to diversify our clientele so that when one industry goes down, we don't go down with it. It was not an easy journey. It was a journey of understanding what the customer needs, really understanding the diversification of the industry, because if you have to produce for the cosmetic industry, you have to basically deep dive in and understand the needs of the cosmetic industry, because you also would realize that look into how the other manufacturers have invested, look at the global trends where the world is going, and focus our investment in terms of machinery to produce towards the global trends and fill the needs of the industry. The other part was also looking into skilling our team, because if we have to manufacture quality and have consistency in our production, it was necessary that we skill our team, and we started apprenticeship program, where mostly what I did in every machine that I bought, I came up with an agreement with our machine supplier that they were to train my team, and got very good support from them, because in every purchase of machine, they sent me an engineer instead of me sending my engineer there, who came down here and was able to train my team. And I had good engineers who were able to quickly catch up with the training, and they were left continuing training the other people. Then also looking, understanding what is happening now, and especially in the plastic industry, where we have a lot of we need to take care of our environment, and we are producing plastics. In terms of sustainability and circular economy, looking at the threats that would, the regulatory threats that would come in, then we started an initiative that we call Takataka ni Mali. And Takataka ni Mali is an initiative that we work with the people who are working at the dime site, training them on sorting and separating of waste, and creating wealth for them by connecting them with other people who are buying the waste and making them use their waste as a resource and not necessarily as a waste. So in our journey, what has helped us a lot is maximizing what was and within that was available within us. Then later also in the space of thinking how to mitigate if tomorrow we are not producing plastics. About 2 years ago then I started a company that we call AromaCare. And AromaCare, we are producing cosmetics, and we are also producing hygiene products. Those are industrial cleaning and institutions. And during COVID, it is one area that has really helped us because we were quickly able to manufacture sanitizers and disinfectants, and we were able to position ourselves in the industry, and we got very, I would say, very good growth that we have seen. Collaborating with international partners who are able to help us in understanding how to improve our production. That has been part of our journey in manufacturing. I would also say when I started the cosmetic manufacturing, my aim was creating a common platform for the SMEs, where we are looking that we can be able to offer them a common facility where they can manufacture their products, abide with all the regulatory that are required by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, international standards. We are on our journey now for ISO certification, so that all the SMEs that are, or the micros that are able to produce from our platform, they are able to meet international standards, and they have an easier way of penetrating the market. We are currently working with about 5 companies that we are working with. We help them in developing their products and putting the product in the market so that we are able to share the journey. Bottom line, I would say it's about working with collaboration, thinking about your client, thinking ahead of your client, and producing solutions for the market other than products. I think that has been one of the strengths that we've had that has helped us to grow from being small to where we are.
Fantastic. And I know you've inspired a lot of women. Caroline, when you're listening to Mary, I'm sure you're seeing yourself in the future in terms of what you'd want to scale to. You know, where you are now, you're in the cottage stage of the industry. How has your journey been so far?
It's been quite interesting. We've been running NatureStart. We founded NatureStart in March 2017. So right now we're 3.5 years old. So I can say we were very deliberate from the word go. I wasn't planning to be running the business full time. Here I am, look at my life. Manufacturing. I was planning to invest and have my co-founder run it, because she's the one who was very passionate then about skincare. I was planning to go back to corporate, and yeah, that changed in the middle of us running the business. But personally, having worked for a multinational, I was very deliberate in regards to we needed to get the right things first. So the first thing I remember telling my business partner when we sat down was, we need to get our cabs, because without our cabs, we cannot scale. Because I always look at the big picture of what we're doing right now. We may be small, but you need to look at the big picture and start from where you are to get to that, to acquiring everything that's needed, because without getting the right regulation, it means that government can come and shut you down, which doesn't make sense to you. So it's been quite a journey for us. I still think I would say the biggest challenge for us has been the reality that government will give you laws, but the same laws that apply to Mary apply to Carol's small business. So it goes back to if it's a license that needs probably about 300,000, Mary can easily fund that and get it very fast. Whereas for me, it will take more time to get that license my way, but I need to get it still to work. So for me, I think the biggest encouragement that I've had along the journey is being part of CAM has really helped me. I've had the opportunity to work with Mary and Phyllis, and they keep reminding me, it doesn't matter what government say, get what is needed by government and get moving and start from where you are so that you move. We started our business with 30,000. That's the most interesting thing. So for me, when people keep saying about the challenges to financing, we think probably as young people that we need 1 million to start, but start where you are. We started with 30,000. We've been able to see our business grow over time. We started with one product line, which we call the Sheer Face and Body Butters. We had 7 products, but right now we have about 17 SKUs. Because we've been able to grow such that we have baby products, we have men's products, and we have products for women, because most men kept saying you only produce for women. So we had to bring something for women and for men and for babies, because we realized that in this same family, if Phyllis is buying a product for herself, she has a husband and she has children. So it means that I can target the same household with more products. So it's been quite an interesting journey, but what I keep saying is chew what you can take and grow progressively in a way that makes sense. Because also if you chew what you cannot take, you can easily shut down.
Incredible. And I'm sure you'll be giving us more in terms of how you want to scale what it is you're doing. I love the fact that you said you're thinking big, despite where you are right now, because of course that will determine how quickly you grow in this industry. Let me come to you, Marian, because you sit at the helm of multinational. It's been in Kenya since the 40s. It's a big player. It's listed on the NSE. When we're looking at now capacity building, what BOC Kenya can do for especially SMEs that are run by women, what do you look at in terms of helping to build their capacity, wanting to plug into the ecosystem of BOC Kenya?
Victoria, first of all, I just feel like I'm in such good company with ladies like Mary, who have started businesses and really done the whole beginning to where they are now. So I'm really, really happy to be here, and being a director at CAM, this is really why I'm here, and I'm very, very happy that I was invited to this panel. For us at BOC, and I think she alluded to it, is that the standards that we require from big suppliers and the ones that we require from small suppliers are more or less the same. And because of being MD of BOC and other manufacturing companies before, I've got a personal interest, a nurturing interest in women-led businesses. And that's actually what drives participation of suppliers into our business, those who are on the table. So if I have a management team that has more women, I think the report also said that, if you have a management team that has more women, then they'll have a bit more understanding of how much effort and how much commitment women bring when they become your suppliers. And I have to tell you, we have a construction company right now that is a woman-led, that's supplying us engineering services. I'm so proud when I see that lady come into the business and coming on time and doing much more than we've asked her to do. So it is the right time, and it's a really good report that we've seen today. And for us, and I think I speak for many multinationals, that even if we are in this space together as women, we still have to meet the standards. I'm happy to hear you're doing ISO certification, and we still have to deliver what is required. And women actually can do it. So we no longer can say women can do it, women can do it. And that's the position that we hold, both personally and as a company.
Fantastic. Dr. Mujeni, let me bring you in. You spoke to the Marys, you spoke to the Marians when you're putting together this report. What was the experience like in gathering this data and putting it together?
Thank you, Victoria. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all the women who are up here on stage with me, because they did also participate in this study. And collecting data on women in manufacturing was an interesting process for us as the International Center for Research on Women. We find that companies that are led by women, companies that have a lot of women in senior management, and multinationals tend to be the companies that see the role for women in manufacturing. They're the ones who are eager to share data. They're the ones who are eager to tell you what they're doing. They're the ones who see the return on investment on investing in women in manufacturing. I think the difference we were finding is with local organizations and local businesses that were run by men or have a small female staff contingent, they don't tend to be as open to having this discussion on including women in the business. So I think that's something we need to talk about. It is unfortunate, but the data still stands there that 93% of most women-owned businesses are actually informal. They're in the informal sector. As Flora said, many women don't even know that they're manufacturing. And then they also don't know that these small and medium enterprises actually contribute a whole lot to Kenya's economy. So for us, I think the conversation, we need to continue having this conversation. There needs to be dialogue on why it's important to include women. They're 50% of the population. If we want to have that growth in our economy, knowing the role that manufacturing actually plays in developing the economy, it's very important to include women. What I can say is Kenyan women are entrepreneurial. We are entrepreneurial. We are working hard and we are delivering. Like has already been said here, the dedication that a woman brings to business, to her business, to your business as an employee is actually more than men, I'm sorry to say. Because women are wearing many hats. We're mothers, we're wives, we're in the community, and then we also have to deliver on results. So you actually have an employee, a leader, a business owner who can wear multiple hats. And as has already been alluded to here, women are also the main consumers in their households. They're doing the decision making around what to buy in the household. So imagine having that intelligence within your company. You have the intelligence of what people will be buying when COVID-19 strikes. How are we going to cut down on our household budget? So there's a lot that we need to take into account when we think of women in business. So collecting the data, we have to say CAM was great at also providing entry into the sector. There is opportunity, and we just have to increase the dialogue on this, because I think we need to bring on board more men in the industry as allies and champions. Thank you.
Thank you. And speaking on acting and responding to the findings, Phyllis, you hear that 93% of women-owned businesses are in the informal sector. Yeah. A lot needs to be done. So what, from your perspective in CAM, are you looking to do in terms of implementing and responding to those findings?
Thank you for that, and thanks for all the ladies on the panel and all your useful insights. We have been trying to do a lot since 2017 under the Women in Manufacturing program. We hold an annual gala. We have opportunities for market linkages, networking, mentoring. You've heard Carol giving an example of one of the people or two of the people on the panel who've also been walking the journey. And I know that these are some of the things we've been doing even before the data, and also having conversations with government. What I think the study provides is fact-based advocacy, an opportunity for us to go and sit before government with facts. As Jenny has said, 93% of women businesses are informal. And you know what that means. It basically means that there's a huge opportunity that we can tap on there. We know also that, and the study has also revealed, that a lot of women-owned businesses are SMEs. So when we start these engagements and discussions, and I like what Honorable Passari said, that we shouldn't just have a report. What policy reform do we want to see? How do we want to see the legal framework change? So the presentations have really indicated specifically some of the policy areas that we want to be improved on. We want to see more gender inclusive policies or gender transformative policies that really take this conversation forward, and legislations within the country. So as CAM, we're going to take this report forward, engage with the relevant government ministries, engage with Parliament, and we're happy to have a champion with us, and the different stakeholders who can move this conversation forward. At institutional level, also, we'll continue to design and offer programs that support women businesses. We've been doing a lot in terms of networking, learning from each other, visiting manufacturing farms and seeing how they are running their businesses successfully with global standards, and offering that opportunity to the SMEs to learn. So we'll continue to do that as the association, and this time it will be targeted initiatives that are really driven based on the outcome of the report. So you're going to see a lot coming going forward in terms of our engagement regarding the outcome of this report. There's also a big opportunity in the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya agenda and public procurement. So when we looked at the laws, the public procurement one is one of the ones that's actually considered to be gender transformative. But it's more about how are these laws being implemented, who is following through, and ensuring that it's not a business registered as a women-owned or a female-led enterprise, but is really just fronting at the end of the day. So that implementation and just follow up on the same will also be part of what we'll be doing after this report.
And speaking of a company that is legitimately women-led, is yours, Mary. Just in terms of opportunities that women-owned businesses in manufacturing can tap into to help kind of scale and grow the industry, what are some of those? And I'll connect that to a question coming here from Twitter. Elvis saying, what skills do you feel are most critical in succeeding in manufacturing today?
Thank you, Victoria. I think for me to speak on that small-scale woman in manufacturing, through my journey, what I would say is like what Flora said. Sometimes they have simple questions that look stupid, but they are necessary. So even at the KAM level, what we need to do is to simply understand really what are the needs that we are talking about. Because to a big manufacturer, it may look like a small thing. Flora talked about somebody can ask you, where do I buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And to you, it's a no-brainer. You can do that. So it is mostly understanding really what their needs are. We all the time talk about barriers like registration of products at the Kenya Bureau of Standards, but we need to deep dive and understand what is that barrier. If you look at most people, especially in manufacturing, I would say the skills is one barrier, and I don't mean skills of doing the manufacturing the product, but even the skills of understanding the product. So it is important that we embark on trying to maybe create a pool. I've seen at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers now we are looking for retired experts who can be able to help develop, especially in skills. I'll give an example in cosmetics. And imagine a lady who is manufacturing from their chemist, from their kitchen, and they need a chemist to develop their formulation. They need to stabilize their formulation so that it's accepted even by the Kenya Bureau of Standards and put that in the market. So a lot of them get into the business, but they do not understand the integrated things of what is required even in the product development. I think those are areas that we need to look into. How can we be able to help them? And when you go to hire these skills, they become too expensive that maybe they are not able to do that. So they do something or they fear it because it looks too complicated. They cannot be able to internalize it. They cannot even be able to interpret it. What manufacturers or entrepreneurs need to understand is we need to build ourselves skills, the general skills that you need to understand in running a business. If it is finance, I do not need to be an accountant. I need to understand finance management and maybe hire an accountant or consult somebody who can be able to help me to do the accountancy. If it is engineering, I do not need to be an engineer, but I need to understand what are the routines of maintenance in my machinery, what is basically required. If it is manufacturing a product, it is the basic process that you need to understand on how to make that product. Get a machine operator, look for the person who can be able to operate the machine, but stop trying to understand how to operate that machine. Entrepreneurs, especially when we are young or when we are starting, we want to do everything. You want to be the chemist, you want to be the machine operator, you want to be the accountant, you want to be the HR. As you are growing, you need to purpose to understand the general of it and look for ways of how it is that you can work with professional in areas of growing business. In the regulatory, I would say, as Carol has said, the requirements of a product are standard and they have to be met, whether you are doing that in your kitchen or in a factory. So that you need to stop fighting and look for ways to make sure that, especially the standards of products, because you do not want to send a product that will destroy another person there. So it is important to purpose to follow the regulatory requirements. There are other things that help you to improve to access the market. There are other certifications, like I'm talking about ISO certification. It may not necessarily be a regulatory requirement, but it helps me to access other markets that I may not access now with the Kenya Bureau of Standards, because there are other requirements that the market may require. Sustainability. The consumer of today now is more conscious of what they are consuming. So you need to understand what raw material are you using. Don't just make cosmetics. Understand if you're doing shea butter, what shea butter is better? What are the benefits of shea butter? Is it shea butter from Uganda, from South Sudan, from Ghana? What are the difference? Be curious to understand your product from the raw material, then understand the trends of the market. What does the consumer want? If people are talking natural, understand the trends so that by the time you're coming up with your product, then you're able to offer a solution as per what the consumer require.
Great advice, and I think especially the issue of delegating duties to people who actually know it. I see Caroline laughing there because you get it. As a young entrepreneur, you want to do everything. And this is connected to a question also from Twitter. And someone's asking, what's the biggest challenge that women face while trying to get into the manufacturing sector? You're just getting started. So what advice would you give, and some of the pitfalls people should look out for? And by virtue of being a woman, challenges are slightly different.
Thank you, Victoria, for the question. When the report was being read, someone talked about sexual harassment of women, even in the sector. So for me, the biggest challenge to date has been the machinery. And I'll give a very short story of what happened. So, first day of operation, we're using the hand mixers. Then we wanted to get something bigger, because with the hand mixer, using a stainless steel bowl, you can make a maximum of probably 20 products at a go. We wanted to acquire a machine. When we checked everything on Alibaba, everything was costing hundreds of thousands, which we do not have. So we decided, why not go local? We Googled, found someone in Kariobangi who claimed to be an engineer, and we went and they showed us through a portfolio of machines they've worked with. We really insisted. My business partner is a woman also, actually, so we're 100% owned female business. So the person we insisted, can we see other machinery that you've made? He told us that the Kenyans don't like sharing information, so he's not able to connect us to the factories where he's made machinery for us to see. My business partner is very trusting and she loves people. So she was like, I think this guy knows what he's doing. We provided to him a manufacturing flow for what we do, and he can get our machine ready in 30 days. So we came into an agreement. I was really laughing as Honorable Pasari was read the contract, because we've been through those scenarios. So we signed the contract. The contract had one line that I don't think we ever thought that it would come and haunt us back, that in case you terminate the agreement, 30% of the funds will remain with them. So 30 days came, we didn't get our machinery. 60 days came, he delivered our machine. We work from Kitusuru in a servant quarter still. We're hoping to move. He delivered the machine. The machine looked like a sugarcane crusher. It had rust. I'm very serious. If you're in natural cosmetics, and even if you use chemicals, you cannot even use such a machinery. And the guy has the audacity to tell my business partner, give me a steel wool to scrub it, and then it will be ready for you to use. And then when he put water in it, to clean it, my business partner is way patient than I am. I was watching all these suckers from where we work from, and I was like, I just don't have even the patience to go and engage the guy. The machine was blowing water up. So anyways, if you're going to use such a machine, it's going to spill out your product. You can't use it. So he didn't know what he claimed he can do to make the machine for us. So for me, it comes back to machinery in Kenya. Do we have anyone who makes machinery for a small business? I don't want a 1,000 liters tank, which is what Mary needs. I need even not 100. I need, because 100 means that I can make 1,000 products of one brand. At a go, I don't have right now a market for 1,000 products at a go. I have a market for probably 200 products out of my 17 products, 200 products per brand to sell every month. So that reality of where we are, we don't have engineers who are making machinery for the people in the cottage business. And it means that if I have to invest in something, even China, they produce that, but then also the costs are really exorbitant. So for me, if we could, the biggest challenge for me has been the machinery. We are currently engaging with someone we've been brought to contact with by two other small businesses who are within the sector. And because of the credibility of knowing that he's worked with other small businesses, we now have the confidence that we can go to him and maybe he can build for us something that's about 50 liters, a maximum of 100 liters, even as we continue to grow.
I think that the way that you so vividly pointed out, or rather took us through that challenge, my goodness, every new entrepreneur will be looking at a pitfall like that. Look at the background checks of a lot of these people who claim or purport to be engineers or other kinds of professions. But thank you for sharing that and being honest. Marianne, let me come to you. When it comes to supporting women in the manufacturing industry, the women now who work within your company, within your field, and offering support, there's a question here on social media about women in manufacturing who encounter workplace bullying. And especially when it comes to something like the Kaizen principles and process, how does that kind of filter in and implementing a process and a program like that? How do you address something like bullying in the workplace, for instance?
Victoria, I'm very glad that you mentioned Kaizen because I have hosted the women in manufacturing at BOC and taken them through our journey of implementing Kaizen from the basics. So we started with 6S, 5S, and the 6S being safety. And when women came to BOC and saw the simplicity of implementing Kaizen or Six Sigma or whatever continuous improvement tool you want to use, it was refreshing and encouraging for us to see the uptake. And some of the women have actually gone back and started to do simple Kaizen tools. And what Kaizen does, because it's a small group concept where the entire company is divided into small groups, you kind of create a tribe of a support system within the company, so that they're gembas, as we call them, that root for each other. So in that environment, you reduce many things. First of all, you reduce waste, which is what we're all trying to do to produce at a lower cost, and then you also reduce unnecessary competition in the workplace, and therefore you reduce bullying. And if it happens, the escalation is smoother, and the addressing of those inequities or unfortunate incidences on the shop floor is actually simpler. And I think many of us encourage continuous improvement tools like Kaizen because it addresses not only efficiencies and waste reduction, but also the morale of the employees and eventually the profitability of the company. And now we can even go and invite people to come and see how it works. They give us ideas that we didn't even think about, because unlike how you want to do your own equipment and unlike how you want to do finance and HR and what, we have those established already. So we haven't had to think about how did those actually start. So when there's a legal contract that is so huge being presented in a multinational, you think, what a nuisance. But now hearing from MSMEs, you think it's actually probably necessary to protect the company from risks. So that's how we've done it, Victoria. Thanks.
Wonderful. Dr. Mujeni, I have to bring you in on this issue because as much as we're talking about building capacity of women-owned businesses in manufacturing, but we also need to build capacity of women who be playing in the STEM space. So basically having more women in the pipeline feeding into the BOC Kenyas of this world, if you will. We're not seeing enough of that. And I'm sure from your research and what you've seen, a lot more can be done in that area, and especially starting from our universities and our campuses. What can we do to boost that part of the manufacturing field?
Thank you. Yeah, the pipeline is very important. But first of all, before discussing the pipeline, is also recognizing that many of us, women and men, are trained in fields that give us transferable skills that can also take us into manufacturing. Because many of the women who are up here on stage may have not come from a traditional STEM background. And in our study as well, we did find that many women had come from a different background, different training, and gained a lot of experience in when they were working. I think we have to break it down in different ways. There is still a cultural norm and perception that certain fields and certain subjects should be taken by boys or are more masculine. So that's something we need to work on as a society. But when it now comes to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, I think we need to be more proactive. There actually has to be affirmative action taken to increase the number of women going into these fields at tertiary level. There needs to be more discussion about it at high school level, so that more young girls are taking these subjects. And then we should also not think about it only at tertiary level, because we also need to think about TVET and non-degree training, right? We need to also get more women into TVET courses. But what we do also find is the way some TVET courses may be delivered or implemented may not be the best sort of model for women. We also have to think about distance to where these TVET centers are, because manufacturing cannot just be an urban activity. We also need to be having manufacturing happening in rural areas. So for those TVET institutions that are actually outside these bigger cities, how are they creating models that will attract women into these courses and retain them in the courses? And I really also do think that in school, teaching entrepreneurship, in school, beginning to expose our boys and girls to some of these concepts around entrepreneurship, to also help them understand issues around delegation, right? Issues around how to get the best return, or how to answer a question or solve a problem that maybe we're not teaching our students now because of very didactic learning. And then lastly, as we think about that pipeline, you may have a young woman who either goes and gets a certification from TVET or from a TVET institution, or gets a university degree. She has now the expertise, she needs the experience, and when it now comes to getting hands-on experience, it's harder for her. It may be harder for her to get an internship, to get that experience on the floor that she can then put into her CV, so that when she's asking for a job, she has that experience. And lastly, small things. Like, we've actually had cases of young women saying, or even more senior engineers saying, I don't want to work in a certain area simply because there are no facilities for women. Something as simple as facilities for women. There are many factories that don't have a woman's bathroom. So you can see that's a workspace that is not meant to be for you as a woman. And in those type of work settings, you then also find there's more harassment, there's more bullying. You may come in with your degree in engineering and you do know what to do with a machine, but because you're new, you don't have the experience, you're a woman, your voice is not heard. So something as simple as a bathroom makes a difference. It means that you're here, and you're here to stay. Yeah.
It's unbelievable, in the 21st century, we're talking about ladies' bathrooms in factories, but certainly there's a lot more room for improvement. The last question actually goes to you, Phyllis. This coming from Charity, and she asks, has CAM ever reached out to women groups that manufacture soaps to help them add value?
CAM is doing a lot in terms of working with the SMEs. We have set up an SME hub about 2 years ago. So what the SME hub is doing is working with businesses and incubating them and assisting them to grow. So in terms of reaching out, not maybe specifically to women who manufacture soap, but to women doing manufacturing in the country, what we try to do is to create opportunities for subcontracting, where we can link up the larger companies to the smaller businesses and enable them to purchase from the smaller businesses. In the incubation program we run also at the SME Hub, we are also being deliberate about taking SMEs through basic things like bootcamp programs, assisting them to understand the policy regulatory space so that we help them to formalize their businesses. Carol mentioned the importance of simple things like a KEBS certificate. If you're manufacturing your soap in the house and you don't have a KEBS certificate, your ability to scale up is significantly limited. So working with businesses to run boot camps, to run training programs with even KIPI, the IP body, because if you've not registered your IP and your product becomes successful in the market, the ability of other people to copy your product would be something that would affect the growth of your business. So we do have those interventions through the SME Hub at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and the Women in Manufacturing program also deliberately working to try and formalize women businesses, to try and support even those working in the informal sector so that we can help them to scale up.
Fantastic. Ladies, thank you so much. I'm just seeing from the comments section, it's teeming with inspired women. They were so motivated by this discussion. And I'd like to release all of you, but thank you so much, Marian, Caroline, Phyllis, Mary, and Dr. Mujeni. Thank you so much for your insights. What an inspirational session. You may take your seats, and I'll go through a few of the comments coming in from social media. This one from Charity on YouTube. And she says, culture is not static, it changes, and women must rise up. No one will pull us up. Let us have a tribe called women. Wonderful. Another one here from Janine, also on YouTube, saying, this is a great initiative and give women hope that it's possible to venture into manufacturing. Kudos to the team. On that note, I'd like to invite the CAM Women in Manufacturing Lead Coordinator, Ms. Sally Kahiu, and she'll be taking us through a few closing remarks as we bring the session to a close. Sally, the floor is yours. And please keep the hashtag going on all the social media platforms, hashtag WIM Report. Thank you.
Good morning, all. Oh, great. We have tea after this. So your voices are going to be louder, hopefully. Thank you. Thank you so much to the panelists. Thank you, Victoria. We really, really appreciate what you've done this morning. And we appreciate you coming through, even when we called you at the last minute. So we look forward to walking this journey with you now that you're part of us. So I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all of you who made it here this morning and for being here and supporting the Women in Manufacturing program. Thank you to the Women in Manufacturing who took the time to provide the data and who formed the Women in Manufacturing caucus at CAM. I would like to sincerely thank the Business Advocacy Fund, who, without their support, the inception of this study would not have happened. Let me also thank other stakeholders who took the time to review the beginnings of this study at the end of last year when we called them to Kempinski. This includes the National Gender and Equality Commission, the UN Women, represented by Ms. Banu Khan, Business Advocacy Fund, BAF, represented by Mary Githinji, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, KNCCI, Crown Trust, Trademark East Africa, Kenya Bankers Association, and special shout out to Nuru Mugambi, who's a great WIM supporter, FIDA also as part of our stakeholders. Special thanks also goes to the Ministry of Gender for their guidance. The Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise has also been very instrumental in bringing us to this achievement. With their unrelenting support and walking the journey with us and their commitment, we thank CS Betty Minor for that and for giving us her team to also walk through the technical processes with us. Thank you also to the ICRW team. Can we please give them a round of applause? Thank you so much for jumping into this when we gave you the idea and enthusiastically dreaming with us what the end would look like and how we would begin to implement. So we really appreciate Dr. Cleo Mojeni, Crispin for your help, Crispin Afifu, and the team, Duta, Sam, thank you so much. We really appreciate. We are grateful also to the Women in Manufacturing Steering Committee for their early morning meetings, that we made you come to, your stewardship, and your commitment. Asanteni sana, it's led by Ms. Flora Mutahi. Ladies in the Women in Manufacturing Steering Committee are also here, Susan Maingi, Irene Wanjiku, who within very short notice usually gives us time to do quick videos of women in manufacturing, and we appreciate that, and we really encourage any other woman in manufacturing watching to please just, when we reach out, we want to hear your story, we want to hear also your struggles so that we can see where we can intervene for you. Of course, I want to thank, lastly but not least, the wonderful team at Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Thank you for your hard work, for believing, and for being great midwives to this awesome work. Thank you to our chairman, Mr. Mushai Kunyiha, for your vision and your support. And being a he for she, now we have also given you another title. On top of sustainability champion and chairman, now you're a he for she, and thank you for accepting. Thank you to our CEO, Ms. Phyllis Wakiaga. This would not have happened without you, and we really appreciate. Special shout out to Job Wanjohi, the technical team. Miriam Bomet, Miriam, please stand up and wave because you spent sleepless nights doing this report. Thank you, Miriam. Miriam is the Deputy Head of Policy Research and Advocacy, and of course, as you can see, very well representing the women in manufacturing. Special shout to the default team of women in manufacturing at CAM, Rosehilda Kamanga, Grace Mbogo, Faith Chebet. Thank you guys so much for the work that you're doing for women in manufacturers. We are so excited because this marks yet another beginning for us. And we look forward to working with you, to implementing this report with you, because without you, it will just be a report that sits on the shelf. So Mary Marion, who is on our board of directors, now we are looking to you from that level to champion this report and what we want to do with the report. Mary, Susan, Irene, don't tire. Please, let's meet, let's have another meeting to decide what we are going to do in terms of implementation and next steps. For the women in manufacturing watching, anyone who wants to join women in manufacturing, please get in touch with us. You can reach out to us through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can reach out through our website. We have so many platforms. Please let us know what we can do for you and where you're stuck and how we can be of assistance. As I conclude, I'd like to thank the crew led by Mina. Thank you, Mina, for bringing together your crew and also spending the night here. Doing all of this setup, this is wonderful. As I end, let me just say that we are planning to have a financial conference for women in manufacturing in October. And this financial conference will address some of these things that have been brought up by Dr. Cleo and her team. We are going to bring together banks and people who provide financial solutions to tell us what they provide and whether they actually make a difference in women in manufacturers' businesses. So please look out for that. We'll put out a poster and we'll let you know the timings and the details. It will be virtual, so feel free to join from wherever. So thank you so much. Victoria, back to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sally. And before we wrap up, still a few more comments I want to sample from social media. Miranda on Twitter saying, women should move into non-traditional areas to increase income and promote gender equality so both genders are equally competitive. This ties in with what CAM Kenya is doing with its Women in Manufacturing program. Thank you for that, Miranda. And the last one here from Crispin, who actually was presenting a bit earlier on YouTube. Women industrialists are game changers. If they get their space, then Kenya can realize increased GDP. And that's from the numbers guy speaking, so you need to believe that. And for those of you who want to get a hold of the report, you couldn't get it physically, but we will have the soft copy on all the CAM social media pages. So that will be the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, that's on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and on Twitter and Instagram, that's CAM_Kenya, and you'll be able to get a soft copy of the report. And in case you missed the beginning of the program, not to worry, it will be on the CAM YouTube channel. Keep using the hashtag WIMReport and WIMKE. For now, we leave you with a video of the queen of roofing, as she calls herself, Miss Irene Wanjiku. It's been a lovely afternoon being your host. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
I'm really proud to be a part of Women in Manufacturing, where I'm also a committee member. And what I love the most about Women in Manufacturing is the mentorship that we get. You know, as women, sometimes you find that you want to, and especially like us, we are in an industry which is really seen as more male-dominated fields. And so you need somebody else who probably, even if not in the same industry, but is doing things that you admire. That's one of the biggest advantages of being in WIM. I feel that we are so quick to saying so many things are not going right, but we also don't remember to say that there are a few things that are going right. So when during this first ever Women in Manufacturing survey or research was being conducted, I had a great opportunity to talk about things that we have been going through. Why is it important for that kind of a research? Because we are also able to identify what is working and what is not working. So we just don't say, kila kitu ni mbaya hapa. No, now we have specific things that we are saying, these are the things that we have, these are the way we can sort it out, and this is the way we are going to do it. I think with that, everything is going to change. The ball game for women that want to join in manufacturing, it's going to change because it's like a roadmap, which is very important. But through the research, you could tell that we are going to be able to be in a place where we'll attract more people. We'll have more people saying that now I understand. If this is my issue, these are probably the things that I need, and this is how I'm going to go about addressing those issues. So for me, it's really exciting, and to be the first ever done here. So we are changing goalposts.